Now, there's an exclusive story in today's Sunday Times. Car makers will be penalised for forcing drivers to use a touchscreen instead of conventional controls for basic driving functions. The new rules, to be introduced in 2 years' time, are designed to stop drivers from becoming distracted and taking their eyes off the road. Erin Baker is editorial director at Autotrader. Erin, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, far be it from me to force people into taking a side, but are you somebody who is a touchscreen fan, or would you prefer to have the conventional dials and knobs to control things in the car?
Well, a bit like Edmund King at the AA said in your article, I try not to be a Luddite about these things. But I think in general, I come down on the side of buttons. I do
Yes.
think there's a balance to be struck. I've been a motoring journalist for 20 years. I've tested and continue to test drive pretty much every model out there. But you do need a bit of a mixture. The likes of, I don't know, a car maker like Porsche that traditionally actually has had a load of tiny buttons crowding the dash. That can be as distracting as having 0 buttons and everything on the touchscreen. So, I think a lot of the manufacturers get it right. But as your article points out, the likes of Tesla, the likes of new disruptors that are heavy on tech, and have done away with everything, it is problematic. I have an additional issue, which is I have a tremor in my left hand. So it's almost impossible for me to activate everything on a touchscreen with my left fingers while I'm driving.
Yeah.
So, it's tricky.
Yeah, well, what an important consideration that is as well, because I was thinking back. I mean, everybody always loves their first car, don't they? But mine was a VW Golf, and I could
You're
reach.
posh.
Thank you very much. I know, and I could reach from with my hand resting on the gear stick. I could reach the heating, the temperature with the tips of my fingers. So without even having to look, I could adjust these sorts of things. But I
Yeah.
don't know if it's as easy to kind of go on autopilot, as it were, with a kind of touchscreen. It feels like you almost always have to look.
Yeah, and also, in terms of accessibility, it depends. Do you have to go into a sub menu or is it right there? So
Mm.
if you've got to kind of do 2 clicks or 2 swipes on a touchscreen to your left, that's below the eye line of the road ahead to find a control like the windscreen wipers, that's just absurd in my mind.
Yeah.
I think to have some functions like the infotainment, the audio, the sat nav on a large touchscreen actually is a benefit. That's really great.
Mm.
But to have those controls that you need instant access to if something occurs, like the weather changes and you suddenly get a sudden downpour, or it goes dark suddenly, or you need to do your hazards. I mean, actually, having said that, hazards, I find that's a bugbear of mine, because the hazard button can be quite buried sometimes as well
Yeah.
on the dash. So, one of the car makers I think has got it really right is Peugeot, because they have this thing called the iCockpit, where they have the dash, the kind of the digital readout on the dash is above the steering wheel, so it sits just in your line of vision for the road, and that's the ideal thing, having those
Mm.
kind of major controls just where your eyesight would naturally fall if you were looking at the road ahead.
Yeah. What do you make then of the suggestion of these rules? Is this the right kind of approach to this consideration? Because like you, I mean, I love technology, and cars with cool tech are absolutely that's great. I just wonder if rules feel a bit kind of limiting on fun and evolution of cars and how they work.
Well, it's interesting to see that what they're saying, is that the safety standard, what's your Euro NCAP, is going to start essentially deducting points, so you won't get your maximum 5-star safety rating on your new car as a car maker if you've got everything on the touchscreen. Because I think we've reached the point where almost every new car is getting 5 stars Euro NCAP safety rating, and when that happens, the whole rating becomes obsolete. So to have some sort of way of differentiating, actually, this car hasn't gone quite far enough. Um, Bring some credibility back to Euro NCAP safety ratings, I think. So it's quite interesting. But having said that, I think your article said these rules are going to come in from 2026.
Mm.
I mean, that's too short a period of time for car makers to redesign their interiors. And also, there's no way a car maker is going to redesign its interior for the UK market alone, or potentially even the European market if it's a huge new brand like these Chinese brands that are coming in that are creating and designing cars for global market sales. You know, we already have enough problems in this country because we're right-hand drive, and car makers have to adapt for us. So to have further rules that aren't necessarily internationally applied could be problematic. But
Yeah.
I do welcome some sort of categorization that means that a Euro NCAP 5-star safety rating becomes more significant.
Yeah, a bit more meaningful, trying to get back to that. That's a fascinating one as well. Erin, thank you so much. Really good to speak to you. Thanks for coming on.
No worries.
That's Erin Baker, who's editorial director at Autotrader.